Hi everybody, welcome to Sunya IAS. Now there's an exciting announcement for you that our Environment and Ecology Module for the GS Prelims 2026 is now out. I'll also tell you what is the approach going to be for this year's module, what were the takeaways from the last year's module, what was the feedback that we had got, what are the direct hits from this. But let me first come to the importance of the subject environment in the UPSC exam. Now, the moment we have seen the merger of the Indian Forest Services, so you are seeing from 15 to 18 questions being asked from this module, the very first thing. Second thing is the nature of questions is changing. Earlier, you would find some one-liners, they were easy to solve. Now you're seeing multi-statement questions and sometimes they're asking you a lot of details. That is one aspect. Third is the nature of questions is very integrated. Right? So in some questions, because the current affairs was in news, I'll give you examples. For example, last year, COP29 was in news and within COP29, Article 6 was in news. So there was a detailed and a direct question that was asked. And when I say integrated, so not only is the current affairs important here, secondly, topics, for example, geography, science and tech, IR, a mixture of that also sometimes gets featured in the environment questions, okay, and which also creates a challenge. Okay, so let me also outline to you what are the issues which people face. So normally the issue is because your preparation in many cases could be haphazard. You may have only done the static components, you may not have integrated them in current affairs. So the issue is, number one, the preparation is very scattered, right? Maybe the foundation notes are not up to the mark. Some time back you have done current affairs, but that is also not aligned, you have not practiced enough. So one thing is it is scattered, number one. Then the note making part and revision is also having some challenges. And when I say note making, many times what happens, you have very detailed notes, right? But you're not able to revise them because they are not concise. Second, the issue with revision is the more your notes are scattered, the less you will be able to revise. Okay, this also becomes a problem and this affects your confidence as well. Then I told you the changing nature of questions. Now there have been years, for example, 2023, they were very difficult questions from the environment section. Okay, again, we know the cutoff also went low. And there are some years, for example, this year in 2025, very current oriented questions from environment. And almost every year sets a new benchmark. So in this changing nature, should you focus only on species or on protected areas or on concepts? But the point is you have to have a balance of all of that. For example, 2025 was very peculiar. There was no question that was asked on any protected area or environmental laws, but that does not mean that they are not important. Maybe 2026 has more questions from those themes. So the point is the changing nature keeps you always on your toes. What exactly to prepare and how to do that. And the other issue is solving questions, and more important is the accuracy in the solving of these questions. So many times, even if you've done the PYQs, but the topics you have not understood from the current perspective, etc., in the actual exam, you end up compromising on the accuracy. So these are the range of issues that students face. So this again will be our objective to help you address all these issues. So in the 2026 environment course that we have, again, it promises to be very structured, very organized. And the main thing, and I'll also tell you from my previous modules, the way we teach environment here is that it is in a very integrated manner. If I only focus on the static aspect, then we'll be compromising on the current aspect, right? Whereas if you do the current aspect without knowing the core, maybe the concepts, that again is a very fragmented way of preparation, right? Now, I will first tell you some of the direct hits that have come from the 2025 exam. And it is not just that the question was asked and only superficially we had done the topic. The questions I have mentioned alongside and everything that was done in the classes is also I'll be sharing you. Now, I did tell you Article 6 was in news, COP29 was in news, and in the class we had done Article 6.2, Article 6.4 and Article 6.8. And in the classes itself, I had emphasized the part that we have market mechanisms as well as non-market mechanisms under Article 6. Now, if somebody has done only a cursory reading of Article 6, you may know it is a part of Paris Agreement, and at max you may know it is a part of market mechanism. But this is again where UPSC plays a trick. Now UPSC gives you a 3-statement question and some of the students may have gotten it wrong if they missed on the non-market management. And here also we have seen even this part we had covered in our classes. This is just one example. Okay, so again the idea is how we understand and how we cover a topic makes a lot of difference. Let me take other questions. Now questions on cloud seeding and how can that be tackled directly. The chemicals used, silver iodide, potassium iodide. This is a direct question. Okay, now if you have not done this well, you may still get confused. You may know one of the options, but you may confuse with some other options. The options are closely worded, closely framed. Then, for example, here the question says the RBI submits the Business Responsibility and Sustainability Report, BRSR. Here also we had discussed, and even if you see the slide, SEBI publishes the BRSR report, and this is related to ESG, the environmental social governance aspect. And this topic I was doing when I was doing greenwashing with you, right? And here this is the trap. So UPSC, what has UPSC done? It has replaced SEBI with RBI. Okay, again a kind of nature, a kind of question. Some of you may have done this in economy, but we had also covered this in environment. Okay, now let me show you some other questions. EU in general I always cover in the environment classes because EU related initiatives have also been asked in the past. Okay, so here if you see the jottings here, directly nature restoration law is written. This direct question was asked, nature restoration law is related to which aspect? You could have gotten any direct advantage of 2 marks here, right? Now a question on circular economy in basic aspects, 3 statement question, you have to know which statement is correct, which is not. And we've had a detailed discussion under the unit of pollution and waste management on circular economy. Then this is a topic we have also done in various classes. And if you see, they have directly asked you direct air capture as an emerging technology. Now here you also see an intersection with science and tech. Now we have also done this direct, if you see the slides, in CCS, CCUS, carbon capture, utilization and storage. And this also we had discussed because Iceland's mammoth, this project was a lot in news, right? So these are some of the examples. Now I'll also be sharing with you some of the feedbacks which some of the toppers have also shared about our environment course. So here is Pranav Kulkarni, rank 256 in the 2024 exam, again sharing his feedback on the environment module from Sunya. Again, a lot of feedback I have from the students who have almost every year benefited from this course. Okay, so year on year, even on YouTube, those of you who are following some of the free lectures, you can find some of our environment related lectures and you may still get benefit from them, right? So here are some of, I think, the feedback which I'm sharing. Again, a lot of comments on YouTube. Some of the students eager to know about when the new course is starting. Okay, and again about their feedback, right? Now just to reiterate what this module for 2026 is going to have. Number one, as always, we are going to be very structured in our approach and very organized, right? All my lectures are always divided in certain themes. So for example, if I'm doing mangroves with you, everything around mangrove, the static part and the dynamic part will be covered there and there itself. So then you don't have to worry that you have missed any other mangrove development. Second thing is there is a lot of interlinkages. For example, when we do mangroves and when we do invasive species, if there is any invasive species of mangrove that is also in the news, we cover in both the sections. Okay, so here the moment it is structured, it is organized, it helps you more with clarity, right? So that helps. Needless to say, modules like environment which are highly dynamic in nature cannot be done without the integration of current affairs. And in our case, because I've been doing this subject for a fairly long amount of time, you can safely assume that not just 1 year, but almost 1.5 to 2 years of current affairs, depending on the theme, for example, we will cover, right? This year, COP30 is in news, the outcomes are out. But when we cover climate change and conventions, we go beyond. We cover older COPs as well, which are still in news and where the questions can be asked. Okay, so specifically on the current affairs part, you will again feel that you've done a substantial bit. Okay, and anything that has been covered either in the Hindu, Indian Express or Down to Earth, any prominent magazine, if an article has appeared which is of value, you will find it again in the course, goes without saying, right? Lastly, all the topics and the substantial themes revolve around our discussion of PYQs, right? And in fact, every other course is redesigned in a manner so that it addresses the demand of the paper, because again I have to make sure it is exam oriented. We can have way too long discussions on some of the environmental contemporary topics, right? But for films, what is of use becomes most important for us, right? And that bifurcation should be very clear. What is important for mains and what is important for prelims. Here, the entire focus is to help you, enable you to solve more and more questions from the prelims perspective, right? That is there. Now, the course, many of you are asking on which date it is starting. It is starting from the 19th of January, right? Now here, just to again reiterate, some of you who have already done my classes, earlier what used to happen, we used to have around 2.5 hours of, multiple classes. Now what we are doing, we will have lectures from 19th January. The schedule will be shared with you 10 a.m. onwards. Okay, these will be the day long classes. So let's say we start the subject at 10 and we almost go till 7. Okay, so that covers a substantial chunk in a day. So we will have 4 such day long classes, and in these day long classes we'll also be practicing MCQs alongside. Okay, so from 10 to 7 you are discussing and I'll be explaining to you all the concepts, and then for the next almost 1.5 2 hours depending on the subject or the theme, we will be live practicing questions. Okay, so this will help you organize all of this, also test your knowledge, see what is your accuracy level, right? That is going to help. So first thing is, it is starting, right? And in these 4 day long classes, we will be covering the entire module. Now, of course, this starts in January, which means almost at a later date, maybe around the end of March or perhaps in the first or the second week of April, I'll also have one more updation session with you, right? So as to cover the current affairs from January or the 3 months additional current affairs. So all of that will again be communicated to you, like we've also done that in the past, right? In the initial classes, we cover the entire themes in the subject, and there's one more updation lecture that happens later on, right? So that is there. Now, there are sometimes questions which people ask that if I am an absolute beginner, is this course good for me? Okay, many of you may have not done the foundation as well, or you've done it way before. Now you want to start from scratch, right? Here in this course, from the very basic of what is the environment to what is biotic to what is abiotic to the advanced concepts, we cover it. So yes, this is going to be beginner friendly. You don't have to be worrying about that. Would it be having some discussions on PYQs? Yes. If you again go on YouTube, even the last 10 years back to back in 2023, 2024, I've had detailed discussions on the PYQs. Even again this year, we will have discussions on the previous year questions. So don't worry about that. We will be doing that. As iterated, would we be covering both? Yes, static as well as current affairs, because many times people assume that this is the current almost a module. How comprehensive is it going to be? So again, the idea is we will be covering both the static as well as the current aspects here. So this will be done. Now, those of you who are joining the course, would you get the access to the recordings? You will be getting the access to recordings. So in case for any issues you are not able to do this, let's say you're missing on some part, you can at your own time, you can again watch that. So no issues as such. Again, sometimes the issue comes how to make notes, how to revise, all of that. This will be dealt in the very first lecture in the initial 15-20 minutes. How should you be following this? Okay. Lastly, the MCQ solving, because we will be practicing questions in the class also. So around that also, I'll be giving you some insights. So as we do all the important themes, you will also get insights on also how to solve the questions, not just the knowledge part, but the intuition, how to eliminate options. All of that is going to be covered. Now, one additional question, maybe some of you have already done the prelims crash course, maybe 2022 or 2023 or some year back, or you have been a part of RRR in some of the other batches. Now, the point is, if somebody again wants to revise all of these things in 4 days, okay, and we will be done and dusted in 4 days, okay, you can revise this, you can do this. However, if there's somebody who has just recently or maybe the last year they've done the whole RRR or the PCC, and now they think they only wanted to do the current, maybe some updation, okay, what you can do, if you just drop me a text, maybe if there is some portion that you are struggling on, or you can also join later on. We'll also be having the RRR, okay. So the point is, depending on what is your need, okay, you can join that particular course. Again, if you have doubt, you can drop a text on this number and can discuss, especially the people who have already joined the course perhaps, okay. Other than that, for more details on the course, we will be mentioning the link on how to join the course and other numbers as well. So if there's any other query related to the course, or the format, etc. Even if you're new, you want to know better, you can still do that, right? So this is all from my side. Okay, what all can you expect after joining the module? Okay, any other query, you're more than welcome to let us know or visit the offline center for any other query as such. Okay, so this is there. Now the course in the format, so for example, this course will be available in the online live format, as well as the recording would be there. Okay, so recorded as well and online live, you can do this course. Any other query that you would have, you can again ask us later on. Okay, so that would be all from my side. Again, hoping for and wishing that you prepare the best for this exam, and especially these 30 marks almost of environment and ecology. We'll try to do our best to score the maximum from this section. Okay, provided of course that you put in all your efforts in completing the subject in a time bound manner and then revising it. Okay, so that will be all from my side. Looking forward to see you in the classes. Thank you.